And we'll call to order April's Tobacco Settlement Agreement Fund Oversight Committee. And we'll begin. I'm going to ask Representative King if she will lead us in a prayer, then I'll lead us in the pledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please join me. Dear God, we pause for a moment today to just thank you for taking care of us. Thank you for being in charge of all things. Thank you for the opportunity for each of us to sit on this committee as we try to lead Kentucky forward. I'm certain everyone on this committee joins me in thanking you for our law enforcement and first responders, and please just continue to minister to our friends in Louisville and all of us statewide. We thank you and we love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Ask all the members, join me, and we'll say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now I will ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Senator Rocky Adams, Senator Boswell, here. Senator Deneen, here. Senator Harper Angel, Senator Mays Bledsoe, here. Senator Webb, Representative Brown,
here.
Representative King,
Present.
Representative Pratt,
Here.
Representative Reed, Representative Works,
Here.
and Chair Dossett.
Present. Now, we have some business that we'll have to take care of here with the committee itself before we begin. The meeting of the Tobacco Settlement Oversight Committee is called to order, and let's see, we'll go down here. Excuse me, I'm having to follow the script. This is the first 2023 meeting of the Tobacco Settlement Oversight Committee meeting, and members have been appointed to this committee under the provisions of KRS 248.723. Our first order of business is to elect our new chairs. And with that, I will hand this over to our staff and let Hillary begin the process.
Is there a nomination from a House member for the position of House Co-Chair of the Tobacco Settlement Agreement Fund Oversight Committee?
Madam Secretary, I nominate Myron Dossett as our House Co-Chair.
Representative King nominated Representative Myron Dossett. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Pratt. Is there a motion from a House member that nominations cease and that Representative Myron Dossett be elected by acclamation? Okay. A motion made by Representative Pratt. Is there a second?
Yes.
Second by Representative King. Motion made and seconded that nominations cease and that Representative Myron Dossett be elected House Co-Chair by acclamation without objection, so ordered. So for the Senate, is there a nomination from a Senate member for the position of Senate Co-Chair of the Tobacco Oversight Agreement Fund Committee?
I nominate Senator Amanda Bledsoe to be the chairman.
Senator Boswell has nominated Senator Amanda Mays Bledsoe. Is there a second? Second made by Senator Deneen. Is there a motion made from a Senate member that nominations cease and that Senator Mays Bledsoe? Okay. Senator Webb. Is there a second? A second is made by Senator Harper Angel. Motion made and seconded that nominations cease and that Senator Mays Bledsoe be elected Senate Co-Chair by acclamation without objection. So ordered. We may begin with business.
Thank you, Hillary. And it's always, as we begin each new cycle, I have to come back and remember the process, and that's why we're blessed to have our staff here. Also, before we begin, we have several new members that are on the committee with us today. We have Senator Gary Boswell, Senator Matthew Deneen, Senator Denise Harper Angel, of course, our new co-chair, And on the House side, we have Representative Rachel Roards, and we want to welcome you here. As we go through the process of what we do here in the committee, any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or to our co-chair or to our staff. We're very fortunate with our people that come in here that do a wonderful job, and we're very, very happy to be able to return here again for our first April meeting. Yes, Senator Webb.
Well, I just want to welcome the new members, and we were laughing earlier because I guess I'm the historian of the group. Commissioner Quarles has had me doing all the historical stuff at the boards that we oversee in the past year or so, and I just want to remind everybody, I've served on this committee since its inception. House Bill 611 was the impetus for this, which was in the back of diversification funds, and back then I had my first job as a representative was to help Attorney General Chandler with the negotiations, and then to help draft the bill that was House Bill 611. And I've said it along, there was a lot of competing interest at that time, both urban, rural, institutional, and otherwise. And we got what we thought was a pretty good product, and it wasn't always pretty or easy. But we are very lucky to have preserved this structure to diversify agriculture in Kentucky to the point of, you look at our cattle herd, our goat herd, sheep herd, and then the crops and everything else that we've done since its inception. And we are actually an international model. I know the commissioner goes to other countries and talks about what we've done here and what Brian and his crew do here too. And it's just, I just want to remind everyone, go back and look at the mission of this committee as we go forward in approving these projects, because it is very specific. It's very specific, and that's to grow agriculture and related incidental industries in Kentucky. Adapted and evolved in many ways to branch out for education and all that as our demographic changes. So as we have new members, I would just urge everyone, there's a lot of historical data and analysis and debate and books, of notes. I know one of our members on the board has his original notebook. So, and we've talked about that often, but there's a reason we exist, and we take some chances, and we're not always 100% successful, but no business is. So I just want to remind everyone that as an unofficial historian and the old woman on the committee, that I'll be glad to assist any of you that you need. But we're a very important committee, and I appreciate y'all's service. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for listening again.
Thank you, Senator Webb. And we'll ask staff, I think it would be important that we actually get some information to our members. And I know in the past we have, during one of our committee meetings, actually discussed the history of this committee, of what we're doing here. And I know with each committee membership, when we're meeting, there's always committee chairs brag of that membership. Well, I'm going to brag on this committee here. As I said, we have a wonderful staff. The relationships that each of the members are going to build here, and I go back and think of Senator Webb and our time serving in the House together. All these bonds, it's a tremendous asset that we have here. So I want to thank you, Senator, for what you've done, being a part of this right here. And with that, now we move to approval of the minutes of our December 19, 2022 meeting. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor? Minutes are passed. Now, we'll move on to our report from our good friends. We'll have the Executive Director of Kentucky Office of Ag Policy, Brian Lacefield, and the Deputy Executive Director, Bill McCluskey, come, and I want to welcome you both. I've missed hearing from you, and I know you probably haven't missed any of us one bit.
Oh, that is not true, Chairman. We have really missed this group, and exciting to see the new faces. First off, want to congratulate all of our new members on your election and your service. For others that are first time on the committee, we thank you for being part of it. I truly enjoy this from a bicameral, bipartisan committee. This is absolutely the best to talk about agriculture. And chairmans, I congratulate you both on your leadership positions. Senator Bledsoe, I'm your constituent. I'm a Woodford County resident, and I hope Chairman Dossett can vouch for me. While technically I was not in his district as in Christian County, we were neighbors, and I hope he can tell you I'm a good constituent on that. But it's great, and we got a lot to share with you. So I'm going to try to be brief in my opening comments because we want to go over a lot of these things in detail. And Senator Webb, thank you for your comments on here. You know, we are getting fewer and fewer that tie back to our original inception. We've got I count on for my sources of history and institutional knowledge. I count on Senator Webb, Bill, who has been here since the beginning, and we have one board member that has been here since the beginning, and that's the one that Senator Webb was talking about. It's actually a warped version of his original House Bill 611 because he tells the story about having to cover his head in the rain walking to the Capitol in the early days. I want to introduce one other team member that we have with us. Hannah Johnson in the back is our point of contact. She is the board member and events manager, coordinates everything we have. We have two boards. We have the Ag Development Board and then the Ag Finance Corporation Board of Directors. And between the two boards, it's 28 seats and 27 board members. We have one board member that serves as the Ag Development representative on Ag Finance. So if you can imagine coordinating schedules and things that way, which is why we have a standing meeting. The as Bill will tell you, for going on 23 years now, he is known where he is the third Friday of every month, and that's our Ag Development Board meeting, and then our Ag Finance is the second Friday of each month. I invite you to attend any meetings that your schedule attends or anything you see on the agenda that you have interest in, and also would like to extend an invitation to each and every one of you, our new members and existing members that would like a refresher for a more in-depth orientation. We have had legislators come to our office and sit down. We can do it multiples or anytime one-on-one. There's a lot of pieces to our agency, and we want to do the best that we can to educate you all for your role in our oversight. And we're thankful to this. I explain to folks when I get a question on why maybe there's a compliance component to it, and it's often challenging giving away money. Folks sometimes want it without strings attached, but I kind of explain the process of everybody has a boss, and that's, I think, a good way to look at this. I was appointed by Commissioner Quarles when Senate Bill 3 moved us from the governor's office over to the Department of Agriculture. Spoke to the commissioner this morning, and he wanted me to pass along greetings to each and every one of you, and thanks for your work you do on this committee. But so appointed by the commissioner, I've told you about my board of directors, but then also I view you all as my supervisors as we come and we present these items to you. And then ultimately your boss is the citizens of Kentucky. So I feel like it's a very good check and balance system that we have, and I'm thankful for the process. I do hate we have to go 4 months without seeing you during session, but I understand you all are taking care of a lot of important things, and so we save it up for one big one here now in April. I promise the May meeting won't be as intense as we go through everything. Senator Webb, you did a great job going through so many of those components that brought us here. And I thought this would be a good visual to start off. I know we put this in your package you got, but we asked the team, and Chairman Dossett, you did a good job bragging on your staff. I will brag on them as well. They're tremendous to work with. We were slipping these slides in right at the 11th hour yesterday when I thought you all need to see these blown up to tell the picture of what Kentucky agriculture looked like at our inception and where we are today. And Senator Deneen, you've seen some of these before. They've been updated, but you were, as a candidate, you were there in Hardin County at one of my presentations, came up and talked to me afterwards and wanted the information. And that is what I loved, is to have somebody that's already engaged before they're even in the office. So thank you for doing that. And I remember the conversation and hope those slides helped you get an understanding on what we do. But this is one that I show in most presentations that I do, because I think it illustrates greatly what we've seen in the landscape of Kentucky agriculture in the last 20 to 25 years. But go back to when the master settlement occurred, when we had all the states were suing the big tobacco companies for healthcare related costs that were associated with cigarette consumption. When this civil litigation happened, it was the biggest in our country's history. 46 of the states settled for their agreed upon payments that come derived from national cigarette sales based on population and inflation component as well to the calculation. But at the time, nearly a quarter of our ag receipts, $3.5 billion of gross ag receipts in Kentucky, 24% of those were related to tobacco. And more importantly, it was more concentrated when you looked at the number of producers that we had raising tobacco across the state. It was close to 50,000 producers, farm families, members of the community that were doing this. It was 54% of our total farmers were doing this. So when this litigation happened, we knew it was beginning of a paradigm shift for our whole ag industry, and specifically for tobacco in Kentucky. And so I'm thankful that we had members of the legislature like then Representative Webb and other members in the ag leadership positions in the state that helped identify this as a concern of what we're going to see. And then thankful that we had the General Assembly dedicate these funds to go towards that mission of diversifying away from tobacco and growing our net farm income. And I'm thankful to each of you all who have continued to serve and your predecessors before who continue to protect these dollars and designate them for agriculture. But look at where we were at $3.5 billion, 24% coming from tobacco, and look, that's how dependent we were. $700 million have been invested with ag development funds over the last 23 years. The majority of our projects, as you see and will learn, involve some type of cost share. We try to use these funds to leverage other dollars, whether it's federal dollars coming in, whether it's private investment, whether it's individual investments partnering with that. So well over $1 billion have come out of investments from this, out of the $700 million that have been invested. And last year we set a record in Kentucky with gross receipts being over $8 billion. And tobacco only accounting for 3%. 50,000 farmers back 25 years ago raising tobacco. There'll be less than 1,000 in Kentucky raising tobacco. The industry has changed. The folks that have chosen to stay in have gotten bigger. Those that have transitioned out have picked up other enterprises. So I love this illustration because you can see we grew the pie of Kentucky from $3.5 to $8 billion, and there's a lot of factors that go into that. But I truly believe the investment in these dollars have been a catalyst to drive innovation and drive this diversity, and seeing that we have added so many different slices in that pie, showing the diversity of what we've done in the state. All right, I like visuals, and I also like drawing cash flow cycles. I'm an old banker, and so I have to understand where the money comes from before I do anything with it. And I want you all to see where it comes from, because this is your direction to how we get this. All right, this is last year's allocation that we had $129 million that came in from the master settlement agreement. That was Kentucky's allocation. And it was actually up, even though cigarette consumption was down, and it is down again this next year nationally. But we're seeing the amount not being decreased as much as it has in the past because of that inflation component, because inflation is real. That has been calculated in. So 129 came in, and then there is funds that are taken off from the to service the sewer and water investments across the state. And it's my understanding, I've learned that the coal severance pays for this in the coal counties, and the tobacco settlement in the other counties on how we're servicing that. So huge improvement to Kentucky with the investment of this infrastructure, and then $400,000 comes off for compliance at the state level. So that sent to you all and your colleagues $102 million that went to the General Assembly budget. Now, of that, $52 million was designated to agriculture, and the other portion going to healthcare and early childhood development. Now, I'm an old banker. I'm also an old tax person, so I like talking about above the line and below the line deductions. So we have a few things that have come off over time out of this agriculture allocation before it becomes allocated to the Office of Ag Policy. And the first is a farm to food banks, $500,000 that comes off, and that is buying seconds of produce that doesn't make specs for selling. So it's creating a market for our farmers, and then using that produce to feed the hungry and the needy. Then there's another portion that comes off, $3.4 million, that goes towards the Division of Conservation. $900,000 of that is direct aid that is allocated out to our different conservation districts, and then the remaining portion is for cost share programs. So that again is the majority of that is going directly to farmers in some type of cost share, but tied to conservation. So that sent over to our agency $48 million, and of that, 60% stays at the state level, and then 40% is allocated out to the different counties based on their historic tobacco dependency. And that is it's formula driven, and it's based on the number of tobacco bases that were in each county. This is when we had a quota system, the amount of tobacco, total amount that was produced, but then also a factor to tie in how much the local economy was dependent. So what was the economic impact of that? So there's a lot of variance between our counties. Two counties, Knott and Pike, had no historic burley tobacco production, and so they received nothing. Barron County is our highest in Kentucky. Last year, their allocation was approximately $400,000. So you can see wide variance of what we have going through the different counties. Now, some counties still have an allocation, but it's often very little. Some last year, I believe Martin County was $48, I believed, on what they had. So in 2019, the state board made a decision to take a portion of state funds and bring every county in Kentucky up to at least $30,000. So the two counties I mentioned that received nothing, they're now getting a full $30,000. Other counties may have been $2,800 away from. I think Webster County was one that was just right under $30,000 and got brought up to this. So it's been a chance to have more communities impacted by these dollars, as we have over 23 years become less dependent on tobacco. And the counties that have the lower allocations are largely our far east and our far west counties. So that has been something that I feel has been a very positive decision to allocate some of these state funds, giving every county in Kentucky a chance to participate. And some of these counties that haven't had much, it allowed them to run a cost share program for the first time. Some have used it to build a greenhouse at their local high school, do shared use equipment, and many of our other different programs that can be done at the county level. So that's something positive. The feedback I've got from producers have been good. Feedback I've gotten from your colleagues, other legislators, been very positive with this. With the state fund, we do a lot of statewide promotional programs, providing technical assistance and education, and have also fund a loan program that we have, and that's the Ag Finance Corporation. This was initially funded after a few years of existence with our agency to help producers, especially beginning farmers, have access to capital. Now, a beginning farmer is often a young farmer, but it's not necessarily a young farmer. It can be somebody that's transitioning from another business, somebody who is retired. We see often a lot of retired military. They enjoy spending time in Kentucky and choose to stay, and farming is one profession they go into. So we have a loan program, but one we don't do is direct loans. And I'm very thankful we don't. Again, I'm an old banker, and this is actually how I met Bill McCloskey, I think in 2006 when I was working. There's a banker in Hopkinsville looking at trying to figure out programs and different ways to help my customers, and realized there was this program out here. The way we work is we partner with existing lenders. We work with all the members of our farm credit system in Kentucky, community banks, large commercial banks, and even area development districts, and we let them be the primary lead in this. We take a subordinate position. We're taking that second mortgage or that second lien position, so it helps that banker improve the credit quality of the loan, and then we loan our funds out at a below market interest rate. I'm an old banker, and I used to live and die by the 10-year Treasury and how it moved. But with our funds, we haven't changed the interest rate since our inception. We loan our funds out at a fixed rate of 2.75%. We pay the lender 75 basis points for servicing the loan, and then we receive back 2% on our funds that way. We've had over $184 million in loans that have gone through our program, over 1,300 different farms and businesses impacted with this. And we have grown this portfolio from an initial investment of $20 million and then annual allocations from ag development funds going out, but also with the return of the interest to over $109 million now. And it's been very successful. There have only been 4 losses in this portfolio, which I've loaned a lot of money, and that's I keep knocking on wood, but that is a very good return. For the first, and I'm right at my 2-year anniversary. And Chairman, I don't know if you remember, I think I've been on the job 3 days when I had my first Oversight Committee meeting. So they've gotten easier and more fun than that first one was. But we for about the first 18 months while I was here, we were getting about $1 million in new requests each month, and we were getting about $1 million back each month in return of principal and interest. So we were self-funding the majority of new requests. Well, as we're going to walk through the last 4 months of request, you'll see with this increasing interest rate environment and other pressure on agriculture, we're seeing bigger interest in our program. So lastly, on my part, before we get into we'll make one more comment about the county funds. The county funds are directed out, again, we explained how they're differing in allocations to each county, but each county has a county council that is made up of members of the farm community from that community. They set the objectives, and they are the gatekeepers to decide how these local funds are invested. And there's been an evolution over time, as House Bill 611 didn't really lay out how we were going to administer these funds at the county level. So we started initially with model programs where we would run a program to maybe improve beef genetics, or do one for forage quality, do one for ag technology. And over time, we found that when you were doing them for a commodity specific, you were excluding a lot of Kentucky farmers. So the evolution became a menu-based program to where there was 11 different investment areas, literally something for every producer in Kentucky that could be utilized. And they're created as a cost share incentive to drive innovation and drive better practices on the farm. Very unlike anything that would come from the Conservation Office or from the Farm Service Agency. So these are competitive, and they are done to try to push agriculture forward on that. That is by far the biggest county program, but as Bill will walk through some of the different county investments, you'll see we also participate in shared use equipment. We also have a program for deceased animal removal. We've got programs for energy and for water, and then we and our counties are application-taking agencies. So we see a lot of requests that come in and are vetted on their merit, on, again, looking back through that lens that Senator Webb mentioned. You know, what are we doing to grow Kentucky agriculture, to improve our net farm income? So that's the breakup of the county and the state funds. I usually give a little recap on what's going on at the office. We've been taking care of a lot of stuff you're going to see, so I'll cut that short except for talking about 3 statewide meetings or series of statewide meetings that I and the staff have participated in. The first was with our USDA Farm Service Agency. We had our guaranteed lender meetings, and the Farm Service Agency is always great to include us as part of these programs, but it gave us a chance to have 6 meetings literally across the state with our participating lenders. We had over 220 different lenders that we met with and talk about our programs. A large part of what we do involve either the Farm Service Agency's direct or guaranteed loan programs. So it's a great partner, and then all of our differing partnering lenders match with that. Just wrapped up a series with the Kentucky Association of Conservation Districts with their area meeting with their staff and their board of supervisors, literally across the state with these. Over 600 attended this. And with administering our county fund programs, the Conservation District is our biggest partner. Over 90 different conservation districts in the state have we partnered with, either through administrating our county ag investment program or our shared use equipment. And then we are currently in the middle of our training that we do for our County Ag Investment Program, or CAPE. You'll hear us use that acronym quite a bit. We're training our administrators on all the new changes on the program that's going on, and we'll have 8 meetings, again, all across the state, so there's places everybody can attend, and we'll do 2 of these virtual if there is just an issue with travel for what they're doing. So I will stop with that for a report, and we'll start going through the different months of activity and what we've approved. So I invite you to turn with me to the January report. Was the December report. Is one we would have normally presented in January. So this was our December Ag Finance and Ag Development Board meeting. We put in, and we don't list the individuals on these. We just list the counties as to where these loans took place. And I'm not going to read every loan to you on it, but just look at the December approved loans. Again, this was one of the first months where we were seeing going from $1 million in new requests to $2 million. And you can see we had 12 total loans for a total of $2,079,000. And the other thing I wanted you all to see in this report is the total amount of capital that was invested, because we will go up to 50% of a project up to a max of 250 on 4 of our 5 loan programs, and so you can see a lot of times we're a much smaller percentage of the loan. So I really like to illustrate that we saw $2 million of state funds that were loaned out will be coming back, and it led to investment in Kentucky of over $17 million. And 3 of them were our ag infrastructure loan. And as I mentioned one, I'll just kind of tell you what that program is. That's what it sounds like. It's buildings or facilities on a property. It really is inclusive. It's anything that is a structure that is not the land, but a structure and not the primary residence on a farm. So it could be grain bins, it could be storage, it could be greenhouse, it could be barns. Just again, they're about as diverse as many different applications we'll have, and that's a program we'll loan up to $250,000 or 50% of the project. So 3 of those programs. We had 8 in our beginning farmer program, and that is by far our biggest in both percentage of borrowers and total dollars invested. Nearly 2/3 of the portfolio ties to the beginning farmer program, and we had 1 that is our diversification through entrepreneurship and ag business program, or we abbreviate it the DEAL program, but that's simply for ag businesses, and that was a fertilizer equipment building there. And point out, we have 3 members of our ag credit national system that are in Kentucky. We have River Valley Ag, which is in far western Kentucky, and then we have Farm Credit Mid-America, which is across Kentucky, and then Central Kentucky Ag Credit. And they and Farm Credit overlap in their market, but we're blessed to have 3 great ag credit organizations in Kentucky, and we work with all 3 of them. We had 2 different community banks and had 1 area development district. So we kind of hit all the bases there of our participating lenders. So that was the Ag Finance meeting, and I will stop for a minute and let Bill take it over with the programs.
All right, so now we're on page 3, and this gives you an update on the programs that were funded with county money. When Brian mentioned that the county money, that $19 million figure there, about 85% of that county money is invested in the CAPE program, County Agriculture Investment Program. As Representative King knows, there's 11 different investment areas in there. Genetics program, as Brian mentioned, the forage program, infrastructure program. So they've got the opportunity farmers, whatever their needs or improvements they may have for that year, they could apply. In this case, you've got Todd County Conservation District is that entity that's going to administer the program in that county. You've got Northern Kentucky Cattlemen's Association in Boone County approved for $124,415, and the maximum a producer can receive is $5,000. So on a 50-50 cost share, they would spend 10 to get 5. Now the county councils have the ability to lower that amount. So I think the average across the state is $3,400. Again, as the county councils working with the administrative entity. County councils, as Brian mentioned, there's 9 members that make up the county councils across the state. So 9 times 120, if my UK math is right, Senator Dean, that's 1,080 that we track. That up until 2010, there was no term limits. General Assembly then upgraded the statute or amended the statute where we now have term limits. So no county council member can sit on a county council longer than 4 years, two-year terms. So we've got them revolving around. We work with the extension agents to keep track of those 9-member county councils that entertain these applications for county programs or projects, and we'll show you examples of a project as well. So the second program here is deceased farm animal removal. So we're going to encourage good conservation practices and disposal of the dead animals. So you can see 3 counties that were approved there. Under the shared use equipment, Brian mentioned that earlier, the counties have the ability to invest their county money in equipment that can be used. It's usually a community organization, nonprofit community organization, will request funding to buy a particular piece of equipment. The most popular shared use of equipment is the no-till drill, where farmers may not want, they only need it on seasonal basis. Don't justify maybe making an investment in buying a no-till drill, but with these organizations across the state, they can utilize this county money to purchase a piece of equipment that then they can turn around and rent out to the farmers. That way they don't have to purchase equipment. It's particularly beneficial to the smaller producers that, again, may not have the resources to purchase equipment like a no-till drill. So you can see $460,568 in programs approved. Going to page 4, now we get into the projects that can apply for county money or state money. So as Brian mentioned, we're going to talk about some projects that are getting funded out of the state funds. $29,159,719 are state funds, again, that the Ag Development Board has the ability to invest in projects. And state money versus county money, the board investment philosophy is looking at projects that have multi-county, regional, or statewide benefit to be eligible for state money. So on page 4, we have the Kentucky Dairy Development Council, an organization that was initiated with these ag development funds in the 2005-06 time frame, when we really didn't have a active statewide dairy organization representing the dairy farmers. So this is a request for a 2-year funding, $1,891,560 in state funds. They have an executive director and 4 facilitators or fieldmen that work with the dairy producers, helping them address the issues. And they're expected to visit every dairy producer in the state at least once in a face-to-face meeting. And then they're also working on education and other issues that are involved with the dairy producers. Next, moving on to page 5, again, another statewide organization, Kentucky Beef Network, which is a division of the Kentucky Cattlemen's Association. I think the significance about this organization, as Brian talked about, how dependent we were on tobacco over 20 years ago, and our mission, as brought about by the General Assembly, is to help transition tobacco to other enterprises. And I think we've done a fairly good job on that when you look at the PowerPoint slides. most of your tobacco producers, that's why we're getting back to the significance of this organization, Senator Webb, most of your tobacco producer had cattle. And so if we can work with them to improve the efficiency of their operation, maybe expand their operation, maybe diversify their operation, then we're on our way to replacing lost tobacco income. So that's what this organization does, Kentucky Beef Network. And you'll see all the programs that are listed here. And they're working with the University of Kentucky, Representative Brown. I know it's your employer, University of Kentucky, and their extension staff work with the producers across the state, again, to help them work on making a more efficient operation. Probably when we got started 20 years ago, most cattle producers, when they're working on herd health, would have the vet come out and the cattle would be in the barn and say, okay, there you go, lasso them. You can, Senator Boswell, work on your cattle in the barn. I don't think a large animal veterinarian is I think their expectation to go out of farm now is they all have cattle handling facilities, Representative King, to work their cattle. And that's a result of the Kentucky Beef Network working with farmers, but also cattle handling facilities are a cost share eligible item in the CAPE program, County Agriculture Investment Program. Moving on to page 6, I mentioned earlier projects that are just going to benefit the county are probably going to be limited to county money over. So this is one example. Lincoln County Board of Education was approved for $13,112, which is approximately half the cost of the project for a greenhouse at the Lincoln County High School. So we've seen numerous county greenhouse projects invested or supported with county money from grade school to middle school to high school, as we maybe expose our youth to horticulture production versus years ago worked in the tobacco fields. Now they're working in the opportunity to work in the horticulture industry, and that starts at the middle school, high school level, and then maybe pursue a horticulture degree at university. So this was limited to county funds. Next, page 7. Kentucky Agriculture Environment in the Classroom. I know, Senator Dean, you've got an education background, and so I'm sure you're going to appreciate this as an outreach and awareness program funded with Ag Development Funds. This was approved for $151,250. And you can see here all the state commodity groups and organizations that are supporting this. So, if they're behind it, they see benefit in this. They work with the Department of Agriculture in locating 3 mobile trailers. The Department of Agriculture provides the manpower and the vehicle to move these 3 mobile trailers around the state. And then the staff, limited staff at the Kentucky Agriculture Environment and Classroom, they go out and, again, provide hands-on education about Kentucky agriculture, and there's a lot of leaders in the state that volunteer their time. I'm sure you all are familiar with Warren Beeler, our former executive director. He's very involved in this program as well. Next, we're on page 8. This is give you an update on on-farm water small-scale grant program. So one of the initiatives of the Ag Development Board and working with Kentucky Farm Bureau was to develop a program to help farmers develop on-farm water resources to be less dependent on municipalities, so farmers can apply to the state up to half the cost for a project up to $10,000. So this is a project in Wolfe County that is capturing water off of their barn, and then water harvested and captured and used as a source for their cattle. Available to state. So again, the point is being less dependent on local municipalities. And that's the last project for that for December. And then we're ready to move into the January Ag Finance meeting and Ag Development Board. I think Brian's going to talk about the loan on page 2.
Right. Yeah. Next tab, we're in January and looking at our Ag Finance report for that month. Another month over $2 million in request. Big diversification on type of operations from grain to horticulture to one lamb and goat and a poultry loan. We had 11 total loans, 3 that were in the ag infrastructure program, and 8 that were beginning farmers. We worked with 2 of our farm credit systems with this month and 3 different community banks. And was a total of $2 million loaned out from ag finance, but a total of $7.5 million in total capital investment.
So next is page 3. You can see the programs that were approved at the board meeting under the county programs, and you can see different entities will step up and administer the program. So for the CAPE program is $1,842,133. The Next Generation Farmer program, this is you can see this is Bracken County was approved for $29,000. If you go up to the CAPE program, you'll see Bracken County also committed $375 to the CAPE program. The Next Generation Farm Program gives a county leadership the opportunity, if they want to target beginning farmers or next generation farmers from the 18 to 40 range, where they don't have to compete with the rest of the farmers in the county. If they want to give that, Senator Webb, a priority, then they have a program, again, to target beginning farmers in the 18 to 40 range. In this case, it was $29,400. We also developed a structured youth program. Counties have the ability to invest some of their county money in youth 9 to 18 years old, can purchase breeding livestock and equipment associated with showing livestock. So you can see Bracken County committed $26,250 and Carroll County $15,000. So you can see Bracken County gets a significant amount of money, as Brian mentioned earlier. It goes all the way, the disbursement or allocation is based on tobacco dependency. It goes all the way from 0 up to the most tobacco dependent county is Barron County, which I think they received $400,000. I believe there's about 20 counties that received over $300,000. I'd say Bracken County is in that category. Next, moving on to projects. I think, Brian, you're going to do.
I'll jump in on this one. This was a unique project, but one very exciting. The Bluegrass Ag Tech Development Corporation, and this was a $1 million request that came from this new entity that was established with a partnership with the city of Lexington, the University of Kentucky, and other partners as it's going to be developed. But talking earlier about how we were able to leverage ag development dollars and bringing in federal dollars to Kentucky. This was some funding that the city of Lexington had that tied to, I believe, the ARPA federal program that was dollars there and could go for an investment into this type project. Now, again, it was a Fayette County application and the city of Lexington matching dollars. But why state dollars were put to it is this is a statewide program. And Mayor Gordon was very clear in the application process, as well as the other applicants, that this is going to be to target innovation across the whole state. So with this entity, it's like an incubator program that is going to look at different cash awards and cost share programs to fund ag technology, to take things beyond the level of what we're working with, to go to driving this ag tech that we believe Kentucky has the future in. We have had several projects that have come into as applications that have been that would fit perfect in this model. So we're excited that we're partnering with it as well and having funds go in. Now the ag development dollars were tied not to operational cost, but to go with their challenge program and their investment funds for what they're doing. So they're still in their infancy. This was for a 2-year project, and they're working to get executive director hired and further bring in other partners and stakeholders with this, and additional fundraising will come with it on doing it. But this was I think this is an investment on something that we will see some big returns in investment on across the state.
Bill, before you begin, Senator Mays Bledsoe has a question.
I don't have a question, but I am going to comment on it, only because I spent a lot of time working on that initiative when I was Lexington.
Okay, great.
So as you can imagine, getting $1 million to match was always contingent upon this match that you just said.
So on behalf of the city, I'm very thankful because that money would have gone someplace else without it. It was a big ask, asking especially colleagues to support an initiative that was going to have statewide implication with, I mean, explicit Fayette County city dollars. But we saw the value in that, especially regionally. We have so many of our partners and our farmers that have both Fayette County and surrounding counties as well. And so it's a great partnership, and I'm really excited about it. The city's very excited about it. UK was really instrumental in helping sell why this was going to be valuable to the state. And so I just want to say thank you, because it was a kind of risk on our part saying we're going to put up the money and dedicate ourselves to it, not knowing if you all would come in behind us. So
Well, thank you for sharing your personal experience, and that was not lost on the board for what you all were doing as the city. I mean, this was truly a way that a partnership was created, leveraging funds to help the whole state.
yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting to follow. So thank you. Just want to say
Great.
appreciate it.
I'm glad to learn that connection on things. All right, our next project was another one that was a very unique project, and a lot of time was spent on vetting this throughout the process. And maybe tell you a little bit about our process for the new board members for how things work. We are an application taking agency. We don't recruit. We accept the applications as they come in, and not to overwork our volunteer board of appointees, we divide the board into thirds. And have 3 different application review committees, and that's where the vetting is done through the majority of the process. If you attend one of our board meetings, you'll see they're usually pretty efficient, and that's because the work has gone on in the committee meetings in getting everything to a position of approval. So this project came in initially was a $10,083,333 request of state funds to construct an agriculture education center on the Dean Little Farm in Woodford County, University of Kentucky's farm, that would be focused on fostering a collaboration in research, education, and marketing. Initially, was part of a $90 million project, the way it was presented to us in the initial application, and it tied to a meats lab that would be built on the same structure and be part of this. The research be going on at the meats lab, and the outreach and education and workforce development to be going on at the second facility. And that was going to be contingent upon a significant amount of funding that would be appropriated through the General Assembly that would fund that. It was $75 million of the funding. Was a project that was discussed initially with the board on, does this fit our model? Does this what we do? And there was a lot of division on the board on whether that was what it was for. First time since I've been here in 2 years, we saw a committee refer one back to the board and work through on whether this should be approved or not. It was discussed, and through the process, learned through your colleague, Representative Reed, and several others I talked with, that the funding was not going to be available with the ARPA funds, and if it was, it would not be ineligible. There were no funds left, I guess, was what we learned. And then, but if there were, that this would not be a project that would qualify for those use. So that changed the scope of what the ask was, and so we ended up with an amended request for $15 million, and tying it back now to us not being more than 50% of a project, that reduced the ask from the Ag Development Board to $7.5 million. Then other funding sources were going to come in from various sources. Again, this continued to be debated within the board. The committee made the recommendation to move it towards a vote at the January board meeting. This project was denied. It did not pass, and the reasoning varied. Each board member that voted against it had their concerns and their reasons with it, but the overall, I guess, if you tried to boil them down to what their reasons were in a couple of statements, there were several that believed it was an undeveloped business plan, that the questions had not been answered fully for the purpose and how this was be used, and then there were others that fully believed that it did not belong within the scope of the investment principles of this organization. And I regret in the package you got that that had not been updated on the board decision. You had the statement at the bottom where it was recommended pending until the application and the applicant could respond to written questions. That was part of the problem. This or part of the process was the board asked a series of questions. Each board member submitted to the Cattleman Foundation, and those were answered and provided back to the board prior to the vote. And following that was the press release, which we have included for each month, and that concluded the January report.
Brian, we do have another question.
Okay.
Senator Boswell.
Well, as I look at all this money that's being spent on these programs, I wondered, and since I'm new here, I'd like to just, maybe it's too simplistic of a question, but what do we oversee as far as the spending decisions? Are these decisions all made before we come here? Then what do we do as this body?
Well, that's a great question, and I welcome your colleagues to educate this. I understand, and if you all tell us this is not what the intent of these funds are, we take that to heart. We've had comments in the past that have been relayed back to our board, and that has changed some of the investments to what they've made.
And Senator, I will add with this, that is the purpose of the committee, is that we do go back and what decisions are being made there by the board. And we do have input with those members to be able to share with them. If we see concerns, we have opportunity to speak with Director Lacefield right here as well. So it gives us that chance to see where the dollars are going and actually to be able to make, ask questions of, and if we have suggestions to move toward them, we have that opportunity.
And Senator Webbs, I know she's communicated back to us if she's got issues on some of the projects and funds. So if you'll comment on the direction you've given us in the past.
Well, yeah, and I'll follow up a little on that. I mean, we're a true oversight committee, but we enabled a structure here to be somewhat autonomous and take politics, if you will, out of the distribution, and desire parity throughout our sectors of agriculture, as well as, I've got a big problem with regional parity, and I've got in a region where we have a problem getting people to apply, even though my tobacco impacted counties were one of the top when we did this. With the structure of the boards, what the General Assembly give it, the General Assembly can take it away, and I think the board is very attentive. And that's why it's important to go back to the mission of this committee and the intent of the original structure, and to make sure that they're doing what we intend. And they're very communicative and been very responsive, and will come to your counties and talk to your board if your local county people don't really follow the intent of what everybody's trying to do. It's a multi-leveled, multifaceted structure that, has worked pretty well all these years. The great experiment, like the Constitution, has kind of worked. And an international model of both Canada and Mexico, I think, the commissioners traveled to promote it. So, but we're truly an oversight board, but that's why it's important to go back to the mission and House Bill 611 and see the intent. And then the tweaks that we've made through the years, we have adapted. Like, the Woodford County project is something that, has been a topic of evolution and adaptation in your markets, and in, like I said, your demographic earlier, where, education is going to be more key as our generations are removed from the farm. So what we do is very important in an oversight role, and to allow them to have the autonomy, because we've been blessed with good people in these positions for many years, and the continuation on that, Brian, and then the consistency of having Bill and the staff. I mean, we've really been lucky as an entity, and but they're very communicative and the mission that we have, and we should work to preserve what we have with adaptations and growth and evolution. So, but we're truly an oversight committee that way.
All right. Thank you all, and thank you for the question. All right, moving now to our February board meeting, the Ag Finance. We were down under $2 million for this month. We had 8 total loans, 1 in the ag processing, and 7 beginning farmer loans. Worked with 4 of our community banks and two of our ag credit. So $1.5 million invested for right under $6 million in total project cost.
Moving on to page 3, give you an update on programs recommended for approval. So there's 4 CAPE applications, 1 deceased farm animal removal, 1 next generation, and then 3 young ag incentive programs or youth program. And you notice the asterisk to Harlan County. So that's one of those counties that received, based on the formula that Brian mentioned earlier, receives less than $1,000 a year, and they might have to save up over 10 years to have enough money to even implement a cost share program. Now, 3 years into the Ag Development Board committing up to $30,000, Harlan County can now do a cost share program of some significance here with the CAPE program, and then I see also they did the youth program. This will be about 2 years of funding. Obviously, if they're getting $30,000, they do commit $53,000. That's 2 years of funding from the state fund. So you'll see, going forward, anytime there's an asterisk, that's a county that was allocated state money to bring them up to $30,000. And then on page 4, we have the Wayne County Agricultural Development Council, Inc. was amended their youth program for $15,000 to bring it up to $30,000. So they originally were approved for $15,000. And on any of the programs, the county has the ability to come back if they have money in their account and amend or add to it. So in this case, they started out with $15,000, and the demand was more than what they expected, so they came back to the county council, and that application comes to Frankfort. We generate a legal agreement between, in this case, be in any programs or any projects. Legal agreements are generated once approved by the board between the Ag Development Board and the applicant. And then we hold them accountable for the terms and conditions of the legal agreement based on what the board approved. And then page 5, we mentioned earlier the energy program. So this is a program where a producer, if they're investing in equipment or technology that will result in energy savings, they're eligible for state money. So the application comes through to office, we process it and present it to the board. They have to have an evaluation of the project by a professional engineer or certified energy manager. We use University of Kentucky, Dr. Doug Overholtz. It's in the Princeton. He's normally our contact on any type of a project, reviewing what the manufacturer specs and determine if there's going to be an energy savings less than 25 years. So you can see we've got a dairy project, a horticulture project, and I believe that was solar panels, as well as the Graves County project, as well as the Jessamine County. So we're seeing a lot of interest on solar panels on a small scale to offset the electricity they use for their operation. And the maximum they can receive, half the cost, up to $10,000, and then we'll reimburse them for the energy assessment of $150. And then page 6, this project we reported last month, so I'll move on to the projects. On page 7.
I'll give Bill a rest for just a second. This was a county project from the Metcalfe County 4-H Council for $1,500 for their country ham project. They buy the hams, for 25 hams for their 4-H members that participate in this project. And this is a special project to me, as my kids have participated in this one since we moved from Christian County to Woodford County. I had to move a 5th grader and an 8th grader at the time across the state for a job change, and through the Woodford County Extension and their ham project, they were able to get plugged in really quick as soon as we moved over the Christmas break into to the project. And one thing I'm really proud of this, not only are they learning about how to procure a ham, but there's also a communication component to this. They give speeches as they enter these in the state fair. So we're teaching this next generation the importance of communication and building a life skill they'll use literally in whatever they're doing. And I'm always so proud of the community that step up and buy these hams from the students after, because I will admit, Dad saw getting these two kids plugged in and making some friends was important. What they heard was how much their cousin had got for his ham, and so that motivated them for doing this. But this county elected to use $1,500 of their funds to buy the hams for the students. Some counties charge the students, others are doing this, and this was approved by the state board.
Next, moving on to page 8 for our Jefferson County legislators, we have a project, Black Acre Conservancy. So it's a 280-acre, what they call open air museum. So they were approved $2,785 to build a 32 by 48 hoop barn. So with 280 acres, they do grow a pasture, harvest hay. They've got some cattle they feed, but most of their activities are centered around the growing plots that they make available to over 350 families that can come out there, and for a nominal fee, they can have a plot to grow a garden, probably mostly produce. So it's on 3200 Tucker Station Road. If anybody has any interest to go visit the 280 acres there on Black Acre Conservancy. Next, on page 9, we've got an update on Community Farm Alliance. This is a membership-driven entity that has gotten more involved in supporting farmers markets and made a request to the Ag Development Board for $678,450. They were funded or approved just a little bit less than that at $621,717. So they're working with the farmer markets, which are a lot of volunteers at managed by or overseen by volunteers at local farmers markets. The Ag Development Board has approved in the neighborhood of 70 farmers markets across the state. And I know Brian's been to a lot of the ribbon cuttings and farmers market projects. And I think we have one here in the to report to you later, is a project that the board supports with state money. I mentioned earlier, if it's a project that benefits just the county, it's going to be limited to county money. However, one exception is the farmers markets. The board has set aside or commit to up to $250,000 for any farmers market project in a county. So regardless of how much money is allocated to that county, for example, let's take Pike County. They were awarded, I think, $240,000 in state money when they did not have any county money. They now have a nice farmers market, very active vendors / producers there at sell on a Saturday, and I think one other day during the week. But again, the board wanted to have farmers market, every county have opportunity if they could provide matching dollars, and most of them, the applicant will be local government. It'll be city government, county government, or maybe the extension office providing the land, and then the local community will come up with a matching dollars up to $250,000. So bring us back around the Community Farm Alliance. Why is this so significant? They're using this money to help support those farmers markets, and there's a lot of different programs that are available out there through USDA. They mentioned some of them here to help the less fortunate be able to access federal assistance funds, and then they can use those funds to reimburse at farmers market to buy fresh fruit and vegetables, meats, and I think Community Farm Alliance is working on a dairy program as well. So the board sees the value, and they work closely with our co-workers at the Kentucky Department of Agriculture on the farmers market program. Page 9. All right, now to page 10. We've got some entrepreneurs here. Alvios Cuban Meats. Mr. Alvios grew up in Cuba, working in the specialty meats business, specifically Cuban meats business. They they're establishing in Louisville. They presented this project to the Ag Development Board. The reason the Ag Development Board is supporting this project at $155,403 is because their plan of sourcing hogs from local producers that would then be processed at a meat processor that the Ag Development Board has supported as well in Henry County trackside. So they would contract with the farmers, process their hogs, and then they take the meat and process it into this high-end kind of specialty products indicated here in the summary. This was structured as a forgivable loan. So the money's made available, and it's basically a loan that converts into a grant, hence forgivable loan terminology we use. And how they reach their forgiveness is they provide documentation for every Kentucky hog. So the incentive is going to be to use Kentucky hogs. Every Kentucky hog, they can document that they've been processed through trackside. They will give a credit of $50. So they have 7 years basically to process over 3,000 hogs. Representative King's going to do the calculation there for me. I think it's 3,108 hogs at $50 a hog to reach their forgiveness. If they do not within 7 years, then they have to pay the money back. And how do we get the leverage to get that money back? Well, we've learned over 20 years, you better put a mortgage on it or UCC filing. And so in this case, of purchase equipment, we'll have a UCC filing for our leverage to get the money back in the event that they don't meet. I think they certainly, based on their business plan, is a doable a project.
All right, on page 11, we're back, another local county project. This is Davis County Cattlemen Association. They had a project, $11,549 total, requesting $5,700 in Davis County funds to purchase a mobile beef promotion trailer. This trailer will be utilized to demonstrate, establish consumers on safe handling of beef, to show how to prepare special recipes, prepare meals, just a marketing ability of what they can do to promote the Cattleman's brand in Kentucky beef. This was county money only and was approved. And that was the last we had for our February board meeting. So moving now to our last month, March. March was a big loan month. You can flip over to your tab and see our approved loans. We had 22 total loans. This was, and we also had an employee leave. That we have 2 dedicated employees for our ag finance program. We had 1 leave, and our other loan manager had just barely celebrated a year anniversary and processed all these. So Olivia Randolph did a tremendous job this month with 22 loans and some very complex projects. We worked with all 3 of our ag credits in Kentucky, 3 different community banks. We had 6 different ag infrastructure, 2 in ag processing, 13 beginning farmers, and 1 of our ag business project, for right at $5 million in ag finance loans, for a total of $23.7 million invested.
Next, we'll move on to page 4, give you an update on programs recommended for approval. So we had 7 CAPE applications for $1,012.39. And you see Bell County, we've got an asterisk by the county. So this is state money, was allocated to the county, $30,000. So this would be their allocation of last year. They rolled over. This year, this will be the first time in 22 years that Bell County has been able to offer a cost share program for the CAPE program. I think in the past they've used some money, they've saved up and bought some equipment, and the counties that are administering the CAPE programs for the first time, what piques their interest the most is the ability to, I've told you Representative King before, that boundary fencing. If they've got livestock and they need to improve their boundary fencing, I'm not aware of any other federal or state program on a consistent basis that provides cost share for boundary fencing. There's a lot of cost share programs at Natural Resource Conservation Service that will do rotational grazing, temporary fencing, maybe cross fencing, or but not boundary fencing. So a lot of interest in Bell County. If they're looking to upgrade their cattle operation, then they can apply for county cost share money to help with that. So again, deceased farm animal, shared use, and the youth program, a little over $1 million was approved. Next, on page 5, we've got an amendment for a Mason County Conservation District. So they originally approved for $252,000 in January, and then they've come back for an additional $66,150 to bring it up to $318,150 in cost money they can offer as a cost share program through the CAPE program. The entities that get approved to administer the CAPE program, they have a window of 12 months to disperse the funds. They can go back 6 months retroactive and 12 months. Within that 12 months, if they have a demand more than the funds they have available, and they've got money in the checking account in Frankfurt, then they can amend and ask for more money. But they have to have it dispersed and closed out within a 12-month window, and then they can start the cycle over. And the second amendment here is Northern Kentucky Cattlemen's Association, again relating to the CAPE program, originally approved for $124,450. They've come back and asked for additional funds to bring it up to $137,922. Moving on to page 6, we've got the Adair County Cattlemen's Association. Was approved for $16,000 to administer the youth program. So they've elected not to use the structured youth program we have at the state. They have some different nuances to the program, so that then has to come to the board as a project. The county council committed the $16,000, and then the Ag Development Board approved that same amount in county money only. Moving on to page 7, so Senator Boswell, this is a project in your area, Green Terrace Market. The applicant is John Harrelson. The individual is looking to expand his operation to a direct-to-consumer marketing program. So a lot of times you'll see producers will start out maybe producing for a local farmer's market, and then they'll morph into their own operation where they have their own facility on their farm in a strategic location that consumers can easily get to and have their own project. This was presented to the county council, and the county council committed $33,050, and consequently the Ag Development Board approved it for the same amount. I think it's right off the turnabout over there in western Davis County. You probably know where it is, Senator Boswell. Probably know the family. All right, moving on to page 8. Okay, let's talk about a farmer's market project I referred to earlier. So Kenton County Physical Court. Again, well, normally on a farmer's market project, it's going to be local government, city government, fiscal government, maybe the extension service will be willing to locate. There's usually a farmer's market association doesn't have the resources to buy land or invest in a building, so it fits well to go with a local government, because the facilities, although the Ag Development Board, for their $250,000 investment, they want farmers to have first priority, but these structures, so that's maybe 1, 2, 3 days a week, but that structure can be used for other activities, and the Ag Development Board is fine with it as long as the farmers / vendors have the first option on utilizing the facilities. So in this case, it was a fiscal county, Kenton County Fiscal Court made a request. The total project's going to be $741,750. They're limited to a maximum of $250,000 in the combination of state and county money. The Ag Development Board likes to see some commitment of the county, so you can see $245,000 in Ag Development funds, $5,000 in the Kenton County funds. So that's the Kenton County Council, and the reason the board wants some buy-in from the county council. That's the group of that county council is the County Agriculture Development Council, as spelled out in the statute, is made up of farmers and leaders in the community. So if they don't support it, then Ag Development knows that there's an issue here and we've got to address it. We've had a particular situation where the application came straight to Frankfort without going through the county council. The Ag Development Board sent it back to the county council and requested that they make a consider it, and they did with some conditions before they committed some money. We addressed those conditions. I reflected in the legal agreement, and it's a nice farmers market facility in southeast Kentucky. So in this case, they've got $125,000 from Deere Foundation as a grant, and then the fiscal court has agreed to make up the difference on the building construction. And page 9, our last reports. So the Kentucky Department of Agriculture made a request and was consequently approved by the Ag Development Board for $210,000 to support the Kentucky Grape and Wine Council. This is an organization. It's established by the General Assembly. This is an initiative that the Ag Development Board has supported over the years. Under the projected producer impact, it mentions 200 farm families will be impacted. So based on the application, there are 73 wineries across the state buying some grapes from Kentucky farmers. They've identified 125 growers in Kentucky. That's probably going to be less than 300 acres of grapes, so a lot of them will be on a small acreage producing grapes. They're a high intensity type of crop, so it requires a lot of attention, taking into consideration. We get every 10 years we get a hard freeze, so that can negatively impact it. The Ag Development Board has also support, and you'll probably see in the future a request for the University of Kentucky that's doing some research on developing different varieties that have be more hardy to the type of climate we experience here in Kentucky. And you got the press release on page 10, and that wraps us up.
It does. I want to mention one other thing in your packets that you all received prior to this. We have a compilation of all projects that were funded in your districts you represent. So anytime you want to ask about any of the questions on that, to let us know. And appreciate Bill and Hannah working on that last week to make sure you all could see everything that's happened since inception in your respective counties.
Thank you, Brian and Bill. Do we have any questions from committee members? Yes, Senator Boswell.
I just have one question. I'm a farmer. I'm really involved in farming, but I'm not involved in the beef cattle or any type of cattle operation. So what is the rule about the deceased animal? I mean, is there particular laws or something that are set forth by the environmental cabinet or something that doesn't allow you to bury, a farmer to bury his cow when it dies or something?
I'm not aware of anything. I think that in some cases the animals are buried. Some of the entities that get funding, they do provide services to, if the farmer will call the entity that's administering the dead animal removal program. In some case might be the fiscal court road department. They'll contract with somebody to come out and bury on the farm. So this is just a way to incentivize farmers to be more environmental conscious versus dragging the dead animal back to the end of the farm.
Yes, I'll share with you, Senator Boswell, my experience serving on the Christian County Fiscal Court. There within our community, so many times those animals would be dragged back to the back of the farm rather than being buried. There may be a situation where the farmer, the cattle grower, did not have a backhoe or were unable to bury, and then you had to worry about runoff and where that would go. And so I know our fiscal court, these dollars have become so important. In the past, Christian County Fiscal Court paid for the animal pickup, and these dollars come in and help to fund that as well, to keep that all coming straight from the courts. And it's very important to have that available there in each of our counties. Yes, Representative King.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Bledsoe and I had a session update earlier this week, and a constituent asked the following question, and we said we'll ask on Thursday when we see you all. We were trying to explain the protein processing, that need that was identified during COVID, and trying to get them up to speed on that. And their question was, does Homeland Security at the federal level invest in any of these projects? This person said Homeland Security considers protein processing being available
meat processing.
as a need in theirs, and I had no idea. So, what can we tell them?
I'm not aware.
Not aware of. I mean, there've been some federal dollars, but those came through stimulus programs that were utilized. I believe there were some directed that we've utilized in our meat processing, but they were not specific to Homeland Security. I agree with the sentiment. I mean, food security is tied to Homeland Security, and but I'm unaware of any projects.
Well, just for the benefit of the committee members, during COVID, there was an issue of consumers buying local, and the Ag Development Board did see an opportunity there. And during the course for the last 3 years or so, we identified 80 meat processors across the state, and the Ag Development Board has approved between our grants and our loans, and there was $2 million of CARES money. It's about $10 million invested in 40 of the meat processors, anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 to improve their hamburger grinding equipment, up to $2 million meat processors in the state. So again, about 40 meat processors benefited from these funds that you all allocate to us to help expand our meat processing capacity here in the state.
Literally from Graves to Greenup County. This one's one, when I look at the map, I can truly see these dollars have been spread across Kentucky.
Brian, we have that in Christian County as well, there with Hampton Meats. I know that they were approved, and I've seen the change there. They have expanded, so it's been really, really beneficial. Do we have any other questions? Well, before we end, and I know this is always our longest meeting for our committee whenever we come back after we've been in session. So I want to appreciate so much. I do want to encourage the members. The book that was handed out right here, this has overview of how the dollars, where the dollars come from, how they are used. And Brian, I want to thank you very much for sharing that overview. Very, very beneficial. Also for our committee members, as we go through these meetings, watch for the projects that have been approved, because you may see something that you're able to take back home that you weren't aware that was being worked through the board. I know I've seen a couple during my time here that I've taken back, in particular to young farmers. I have several teenagers that are members of the 4-H that are in projects, and they have been able to access these doing the grants or making the application. So I want to encourage everyone to watch these closely.
Chairman Dawson, and our next edition of the annual report will have all your names in it. So look for the next annual report about September.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also advise that you get to know who's on your local councils and your boards, and when the meeting are, and just, we're not there to micromanage them, but every now and then if you stop in and check on them and see how they're conducting the meetings, especially because they're having new members too with the new term limit implementation. So I would recommend that as well.
Absolutely, very important. And Brian, before we end, as you said, 2 years ago, is that correct?
It
and
is.
I remember Brian and I have known each other for many, many years. And I laughed the following day. He called me. I think you got fussed at because you had called me by my first name, and I never took offense to it. But it was against decorum, I suppose. But know that you can call me by my first name anytime you wish to, my friend.
Well, Representative Dawson, I will in the hallway.
Well, with that being said, thank you both, Brian and Bill, both, for your presentation. It's greatly appreciated. Our next meeting will be May the 18th at 10:30 a.m. And if there is no other business, may I have a motion to adjourn? We are adjourned. Thank you.